Hey hustlers, welcome back to another episode on Ingrid Project. On this episode, I want to talk about things I miss about North Carolina. As many of you know, I moved from North Carolina here a few years ago to pursue my career in tech, and I have moved around but come back every single time since then because I just love it here that much. But there are still some things that I miss a lot about North Carolina that just cannot be replaced, imitated, or imitated anywhere else. Now, of course, my really close friend group and my family is in North Carolina. That is most definitely the hardest thing about being, like, not even being in another state, like being across the entire country. One day I calculated that North Carolina, from San Francisco to North Carolina, the city that I grew up in North Carolina, the distance is further than North Carolina from Bogota, Colombia, which is South America, a whole different continent, which just completely blew my mind. But it just goes to show, like, I am pretty far. I'm far from my people. So aside from my family, which will not be the focus of this video, I want to talk about some things I miss about North Carolina. So growing up in North Carolina I grew up in Greensboro, and I grew up surrounded by lakes and forests and greenery and a really, like, typical Southern type of environment. We got picked up by the school bus. We danced in the rain in our bathing suits. The summers were long and hot, and it was beautiful. And things I miss about North Carolina and these are some of the things that I enjoy too when I go back. Like, when I go back home, it's like it's a slow down pace. I believe North Carolina is a great place if you want to have a more settled down life, I think. Like, if you're content with your 9 to 5 and you want to raise a family and kind of like kick back, and that's the routine that fills your cup, it's a great place to live for that. Now, for me personally, for someone who had all of these other ambitions and projects and things that I wanted to work on, North Carolina became pretty small for me very quickly, and I found it difficult to kind of grow in this environment where it was very, very comfortable, but very comfortable in the best way. Like, that's one of the things I really enjoy when I go back. I slow down because I have to. Everyone is just like on a different pace. Life is just, it's more tranquil. No one's worried about like, the lifestyle there is less flexy, right? I think, like, a lot of times in the Bay, everyone's like, at least in tech, they're like, oh, where do you work? And like, everyone's trying to compete to like work in Maine, and everyone has a startup, and everybody has a side hustle, and everybody has a podcast, and it's almost like people are not competitive with each other, but everyone's trying to like outflex each other sometimes, and sometimes, like, it's a lot. And me personally, regardless of the hustler that I am, regardless of having worked in Maine and staying in tech, like no longer in Maine, and all these other things, like, I just didn't grow up like that. I grew up in a very different environment, and sometimes it can be overwhelming, even though, like, this is the cloth that I'm cut from for lack of better words. Onto more mundane things. I really miss North Carolina's sweet tea, and like that dollar sweet tea from McDonald's just slaps. Okay, now that is diabetes in a cup, but it's so good. When I go back, like, my mom, my sister, like, they're so sweet. They'll always like go and get me one before they pick me up at the airport. Now, over the years, it's become like too sweet for me, like, as I've changed my diet and things. So now I, like, if I can get it like half sweet, half like an Arnold Palmer, half sweet, half unsweet, I really enjoy it that way, and it's definitely something I miss. I also miss chili dogs. I know that sounds like so basic, but something about chili dogs in the South, like the chili's made from scratch. I don't know what kind of meat it has. I don't know what kind of grease are in the weenies, or like what kind of butter they're putting on this bread. Like something about chili dogs is just banging there. And it doesn't matter where you get the chili dog from. I'm sure it does. But I've had like different chili dogs in different places, and all the chili dogs taste different, but they all taste amazing. And I miss that. I miss the mac and cheese. I miss the collard greens. I miss the cornbread. But most importantly, I really miss the sweet tea and the chili dogs. They're freaking amazing. And then two more things. One of the things I miss that's like near and dear to my heart is summers on the porch. Now, because of, I think, just being in the South, most houses have porches, and it's just like it is when you watch TV and you watch these shows. Like, people have rocking chairs on their porch and they'll sit there and they'll just hang out. And this was one of like the things that I really like to do with my mom, like especially during the summer. If she came home from work, I was out of school, or I was just free, like we would just sit out on the porch. And we live, like, my mom lives in a cul-de-sac, and there's not really a view, but you still just sit on the porch, look out into the abyss, and just have a conversation. Or if you're by yourself, like, you pop a cold one, and you know, you're like listening to music or whatever, and you're just chillaxing. And that's one of my favorite memories in the summer, just sitting there with my mom, having a little snack, maybe drinking a little some. And just hanging out. And now that I think about it, like, basically I've done the same, like with my sister, gone and sat on her porch and her chairs, and we've had something to drink or breakfast outside on the porch. With one of my best friends, like, she was furnishing her place, and the first thing she did was like get these rocking chairs, which were amazing. And we've had some like deep conversations on rocking chairs. And I think that's just such a Southern thing. And actually, ahorita que me acuerdo, someone was telling me that one of the things they loved about North Carolina was that all the airports have rocking chairs, and they do. And I pointed out to them that it's not just the Charlotte airport, but all of the North Carolina airports have rocking chairs. And if you didn't know, North Carolina is was like the furniture wood capital. That's where they host like the furniture market every year, which I worked that when I was younger, both like working at hotels and working in catering and working as a waitress. Good tips. I do not miss those days, but I'm grateful for the struggle. And yes, that's kind of like the backstory behind all the rocking chairs. And the last thing I miss about North Carolina, and I mean, it's just unique to the South, is the Southern hospitality. Now, regardless of the fact that growing up in the South, I definitely faced my fair share of discrimination against, like, just being a Latina, just being a brown woman, a woman, that Southern hospitality has carried over into all cultures that are there. I miss everyone being like, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am. You know, you go to someone's house and they offer you something to drink, and you sit down and you're going to be there for a few hours, and it doesn't matter because time is so slow, and everyone has time for family and time for friends and time to sit on the porch on the rocking chair and talk about life. And even though I really miss that, it's just not something I can see myself doing every single day. But when I go, I enjoy the most of it. And maybe it's a life that I would enjoy down the line, like when I'm retired. But it's nice. And yeah, Southern hospitality is awesome. Like, where I live, all of our neighbors, like, we all know each other. We have a Facebook page with a sub page just for everybody's dogs, so everybody knows whose dog belongs to who, because they like to get loose. And people, for the most part, are just very chillaxed, family oriented. And it's lush, it's green. There's so many activities to do during the spring and summer. And it's overall just like a very wholesome, for the most part, environment. And that is something I miss. It's nice to get away from the hustle and bustle from time to time. So those are a few things I miss about North Carolina. I hope you enjoyed this video. I have lived in other places. Let me know if you'd like to see more videos like this one, or what other topics you'd like for me to cover in my channel. enjoy the other 23 videos in this season. I'm covering a lot of other topics, and I'm just so grateful that you're here. Thank you for sticking it out. Thank you for your support, for your love, for your engagement. Thank you for the views, and I love you guys. I'll see you in the next episode.